Thanks for tuning in to Veterans Voices. I'm your host, Joshua Zebley, and my co-host is Buck Carmichael. Today we'll be talking about housing for veterans in need. If you want to join the conversation, follow the QR code on the screen. I want to start by talking about an event that recently took place here in Contra, Costa called The Surge. Let's take a look.
Hi, I'm Buck Carmichael. I'm the Contra Costa County Assistant Veteran Service Officer. I'm here in Concord at the Veterans Memorial Building at an event called The Surge. The point of this event is to help house homeless veterans. We actually have 4 teams that are going through each part of our community in Contra Costa County to locate these veterans. They're bringing them back to this location, taking them right through that door, and we're certifying them and trying to get them a bed that same day. Let's see how it goes.
They told me they're gonna maybe put me up in a hotel temporarily, and my worker already has a place lined up for me. Yeah, an apartment. I'm very optimistic, yes. I was really in need of good news, and I got it.
Buck, that was an amazing video. It seems like an amazing event. Can you tell us a little bit more about The Surge? Specifically, how many veterans did you all get off the streets tonight and find them homes?
Sure, I'm very excited to participate in this event. It was the first time that I had that opportunity to see the collaboration of so many different organizations coming together to house veterans, and we were lucky enough to actually put teams together, go out into the community, into homeless communities, whether it's under underpasses, overpasses, and locate veterans. And we located 32 veterans, brought them in, 12 of them qualified for the program, and they were able to get a bed that night. For those that may not have qualified for the program, you know, we had so many different community service organizations that they were actually able to be served as well. And, you know, as a part of that, we have Mary and Rebecca from Contra Costa County Health, who actually helped with the veterans that may not have qualified for the HUD-VASH program.
That's a great event, Buck, and I'm glad we were able to be part of it, and I hope we continue to do that. We want to discuss the Surge event to show what is possible. We'll be talking about housing veterans on a state and even national level. But we are starting right here in Contra Costa County, where the show is based. I want to welcome Mary Juarez-Fitzgerald and Rebecca Sanders of Contra Costa Health to the show. Welcome.
Great, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Rebecca, what kinds of things is Contra Costa County doing to help veterans in need of housing?
I can talk a little bit about our program. I am a program coordinator for the core outreach team, and we have 22 teams in Contra Costa County that are out in the field every day doing street outreach to unhoused individuals that are living on the streets or in their vehicles.
The 22 outreach teams, what does their day-to-day look like? What are they out doing?
So they come into the office, they get their vehicle, and they answer dispatches. So we get calls through 211 option 3, and we also get calls directly from community members who may have come in contact with somebody who needs assistance, and we respond to those calls, and we get emails as well. So we're literally responding to anybody who needs supports in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And for Mary, I've heard a little bit about the coordinated entry program. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure.
Maybe some challenges with the system?
Yeah, in terms of coordinated entry and what we do, we kind of help the entire system of care and all our homeless programs coordinate services. We act as a liaison between the different teams, and we ensure that teams such as Vickie's and our shelters, that there's a front door for people experiencing a crisis to be able to get support. So with coordinated entry, the goal is to make it simple, that if you're experiencing homelessness, that you don't need to know all the different programs and all the eligibility. You just reach out to one of those coordinated entry access points, such as CORE or care centers, and the staff there will be able to assess you for all the different programs and get you connected to whatever services might be available to help your situation, whether it be emergency shelter referrals, housing referrals, or anything else, even sometimes connecting to veteran benefits. In terms of challenges that we see, I think coordination among service providers is something that we're doing amazing in Contra Costa. So our team, along with Vickie, our partners with the VA, Capri, Shelter Inc., Insight Housing, we all meet bi-weekly and get together and we literally spend time speaking about every veteran known to us to be experiencing a housing crisis to ensure that they're getting services. But on the system level, what we see some challenges are around some of our veterans. We see a high number of veterans experiencing homelessness are seniors. So that comes with complex needs. And then I would say also number one, not just for our veteran population, but in general in a community such as Contra Costa, the lack of affordable housing. So our homeless crisis, it isn't necessarily, or it isn't the fault of any individual or any choice, right? It's really like at a system level, not having the affordable housing that people need. So those are some of the challenges that I think we see in terms of serving veterans or anyone experiencing a housing crisis in our community.
Do you have any like pro tips then for someone that might be having a holdup in the system, or when you're preparing potentially to apply for that? Or?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that number one is always taking that step to reach out. Don't wait until maybe it's too late. Don't maybe think that you're not eligible for something, because really there are so many different resources that if you're experiencing a housing crisis or on the brink of a housing crisis, there is a program that you can be connected to. And if at some point in the future, maybe there was a negative experience, maybe with a provider or something happened, don't let that discourage you from reaching out or continuing to reach out. There's people that care, that want to help, dedicated outreach team, shelter staff, our veteran service providers, even our coordinated entry team. I'm the grandchild of 3 Navy veterans. So there are people that care and want to make sure that anyone that needs any type of help is connected to those services. So the biggest advice I have is don't hesitate to reach out, or even if you're not sure. I think there's also been a lot of changes very recently around eligibility when it comes to our veteran population. At the VA level for VASH, right, there was a large VASH expansion, and some of our other programs around discharge status that maybe at some point in the past a veteran reached out and they didn't qualify for something they needed or for some reason there. But there's been so many changes that we don't want folks to count themselves out, and just if you need any type of help at all, or maybe even if it's some type of crisis and you don't want to say, oh, I need help or I need this, right? Because there's stigma there as well. Just reach out and ask the questions, even if it's asking on behalf of a friend. But there's people that want to help connect everyone that needs it.
Thank you. That's a great answer. So I'll admit I was cheating a little bit and looking at your paper, and I saw a lot of stats in there. I want to give you guys the opportunity to talk about, well, what, on that level, how many homeless veterans are you serving a year? What things like that. Let's hear about the good job you're doing.
Thank you. So one of the things we do with Contra Health, which in our division of Health, Housing, Homeless Services, our coordinated entry team is a part of that division. We also are a service provider. We oversee some of our county shelters, operate our core homeless outreach team. But with coordinated entry and our continuum of care, one role that we play is helping to coordinate all the homeless service providers in Contra Costa. And so some things that we see in our COC, we note that in 2024, we had over 900 veterans that were accessing services across our system of care. So this is in programs that are not just veteran specific, but any of our other just general population or other homeless programs that are not necessarily veteran specific. We also see that overwhelmingly a large portion of the veterans are seniors. So that comes with different needs, but also see that in addition to seeing a large number of veterans who are seniors, many of our veterans report having a disability. And that's not something necessarily to count folks out, but it just, for us, we love to have this information because we can make sure that those veterans or people are getting the help that they need. We also know that in 2025, as of our most recent housing inventory count, that's a report submitted to HUD, super fun stuff, but we had over 478 active VASH vouchers in our community. So it's great that that resource is available our team works super close with our VA partners, the veteran service providers, to make sure that veterans are accessing those VASH vouchers, especially those that maybe only recently with the VASH eligibility expansion became eligible. We also work super closely with our housing authority. That's another partner in that process to help make sure that those vouchers are utilized. And then lastly, definitely want to make sure to lift up the work that we're doing around our by names list. And that is a bi-weekly meeting with our teams, some of the folks you'll hear from today, where we are literally getting together and having a meeting with all the service providers to talk about all the homeless veterans or veterans experiencing homelessness that are known to us. So any touch point in our system, if they're saying, I'm a veteran and I am homeless, they're coming up in this meeting and we are talking about them and making sure, how can we get them connected to something? And if there's challenges on them connecting, how do we make sure that we're still there when they are finally ready to engage, or maybe there isn't one provider that met their needs, connect them to someone else. But really, there's been great work there. And I think some of the accomplishments from our by names list, where we've seen over the years it go from 300 something homeless veterans to now, as of July of 2025, 134 known homeless veterans, roughly. Some of that great work we've done chipping away there and addressing and ending veteran homelessness helped make us be a community selected for something like the Surge event. Right. So
That's
just some great work
Contra
that we're
Costa is
doing.
doing a lot. I worked here and I still didn't know, but thank you.
Yeah, a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
Rebecca, go ahead, Buck.
Well, and I was just curious, how would a veteran access the core outreach services in Contra Costa County?
So there's one main way that we get calls directly from veterans would be through 211 option 3, and then they would get a team dispatched to wherever their location is. We can come into contact with them organically on the streets, or if they don't want to request services for themselves, their family members or a service provider can also call in 211 option 3 to access services for them.
And how quickly, when you start working with a veteran, are they usually able to access these services then?
They can access core services immediately, which is, access to emergency supplies, resources for them. In general, we work very closely with the VA and Shelter Inc. and Insight, and getting them connected. If they're a veteran, and they want the services, we'll make the call that day and have something set up within a day or two usually. So it doesn't take long at all. Our teams work really closely together, and that has been an amazing collaboration for us.
And it sounds like a lot of collaboration is going on then. So it's not just necessarily helping a veteran, but it's also coordinating with other community providers to make sure that they, holistically are being helped.
Yeah, that's supportive services. That's the most important, right? Because there's a reason that this veteran is homeless, and we need to address all of those, is what you're saying. And I think that you guys are doing that. I'm so impressed by the 22 field teams. I don't know how many are part of each team, but they're getting in their cars and driving out, every day to go actively seek homeless individuals or unhoused individuals, not just veterans. That's amazing to me. And you said 478 HUD VASH vouchers that we have
Currently active, being utilized. So that means, 478 veteran households that are housed utilizing that voucher resource.
It's such a great program that we have here, and thank you both for being on the show. It was a pleasure to meet you, and we'll definitely be in contact. If we get veterans, if you're a veteran watching, you want to contact the core outreach coordinators or someone.
211 option 3.
Okay, we'll say it again.
211 option 3.
There we go, 211 option 3. We're taking a brief break, but when we come back, we'll continue our conversation. Stay with us.
Veterans have done a lot for us. Now it's our turn to help them. National Call Center for Homeless Veterans at 877-424-3838.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices. We are talking about housing and for veterans in need. Now I want to shift our discussion to a statewide solution. Join us are Sean Johnson with California Department of Veterans Affairs and J.R. Wilson with the Delta Veterans Group, and Richard Owens of Jamboree Housing. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. If we could take a quick minute and ask all to each, 1 or 2 minutes about what your organization does.
Delta Veterans Group was started in 2012, really to bring all of these organizations that you've had on so far together to do a stand down on the Delta. And a stand down is different than a resource fair. We actually have our veterans stay on site at the Contra Costa County Fairgrounds. And then we give them all those wraparound services to include dental, medical, housing. Everybody's doing a great job housing veterans, but we also need to continue that with their employment. And all of those services come together in September at the Contra Costa County Fairgrounds for the stand down on Delta. So we absolutely love to do that and love to work with all those organizations that come in and provide services.
Thank you, JR, and thanks for joining us. I think you've been on the show multiple times, so appreciate and welcome you back. Sean, hopefully you can hear us. Can you tell us a little bit about what CalVet and what you do for homeless veterans, unhoused veterans?
Thanks, Josh. I can hear you fine. Hopefully,
Okay,
you all can hear
You're
me.
good.
Okay. Well, at CalVet, we're the prime advocate for veterans in the state of California as the state Veterans Affairs Department. So it isn't a whole lot that we don't do for veterans. When it comes to housing and homelessness prevention, we have a program that we've been working with our state Department of Housing and Community Development for about a decade now, and that is the Veterans Housing and Homelessness Prevention Program. We've awarded funding to build these multifamily housing locations. Throughout that time, I believe we're right about 100 projects awarded. Last I checked, I think we're just over 65 projects that are currently operating, a few of which in Contra Costa County. But these sites are critical for veterans experiencing homelessness. There are permanent supportive housing, and so they have all the wraparound services. You've heard a little bit about that, with the description of the coordinated entry system. These projects really interact with that system heavily. They are referral sites that system would refer veterans to. And so lots of smiling faces. I've spoken with a lot of veterans who have, like the veteran in the intro there, whose life has turned for the better once they realize they have their permanent housing and they can start the rest of their lives thriving in that community. Also, aside from the housing development piece, we have grant program that we provide extra funding to provide and enhance supportive services for those veterans who are aging. You heard a little bit about that earlier. Aging veterans need more assistance, if they are to thrive in their community, which, we hear over and over again that that's where they want to be. We hear over and over again that helping them thrive in housing with support for their health and wellness needs reduces the cost of emergency room visits and other healthcare costs. And so we're really excited about what this program does. At our headquarters, and we have a whole team of folks that are standing by answering the phones, ready to help veterans, not just veterans really, who are experiencing homelessness and need help navigating these complex systems. In Contra Costa County, it's well set up and functioning well. Other counties, are still sort of building their systems up and really getting the settings in place for it to be a truly coordinated system. But we're standing by, and oftentimes we get contacts from veterans, dependents and loved ones and friends and allies of veterans who are trying to help their veteran or, the veteran themselves figure out a way to get into housing. Some in really urgent situations, some, just sort of, basically the gamut, the wide spectrum of types of situations. We find that one of the biggest things that we assist with in the housing and homelessness space is really adding to the coordination. It's coordination within a county, but coordination amongst counties and at a statewide, with a statewide emphasis to make sure that there's no stone unturned. We have a mission at CalVet, and it's to make sure that every veteran is connected, protected, and respected. The most connected, protected, and respected in the nation. And so that's what we're off to do.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you. Richard, can you tell us about Jamboree Housing, please?
Yes, Jamboree Housing is a nonprofit housing developer. We build affordable housing and permanent supportive housing for veterans and non-veterans alike. We've taken advantage of some of the programs that Sean just talked about, the VHHP program, and others to build this housing. Our whole goal is to transform lives and strengthen communities through housing. Jamboree has 196 veteran-specific units throughout Southern California, and then we also house multiple veterans at our affordable housing sites where they're able to use their VASH voucher to come in and be able to get an affordable housing unit that is definitely lower than most of our market rate properties that are out there.
Well, thank all three of you for joining us today. We got about a 22-minute conversation here, and I think we're all going to learn a lot about the services you provide. And really, we know there's some hurdles with veterans and service providers when we're trying to provide services to unhoused veterans. I'm going to start with J.R. Can you tell us about some of the biggest hurdles there is when you're trying to house an unhoused veteran?
Well, I think some of those issues are starting to be resolved. As the previous guest talked about with the expansion in HUD VASH programs being expanded, and which what we're talking about there is really where the VA compensation doesn't hinder the veteran in the requirements to get that. So I think more of it is really getting the word out there and letting them know. And if they had come to try to get services before and were denied, laws have changed. We've had the PACT Act and different things like that that can increase veterans' compensation. So it's working with the organizations and really getting and contacting those veterans and bringing them. That's what's great about the surge and what will be great about the stand down on the Delta. I think that's really just getting the information out there and guiding them to those services.
And you mentioned Stand Down on the Delta, which is actually coming up next month. It's a huge program here in Contra Costa County, one that our office participates in. I'd really like to dig into that a little bit, talk about the services that are provided. It's a really great program. I've seen a lot of success stories come from what you do out in Antioch. It's every 2 years you do that. Can you kind of explain some of the benefits to the veterans that attend that?
And the organizations that are on here and do that. Really what we focus in on Stand Down is, yes, there's going to be a lot of services there, but get the veteran back together to give them a new mission. They serve their country, and we want them to serve their communities. So that's the reason why we tackle all of those obstacles with the housing, the health, the education, the employment. We take them fishing. They really get the feeling that they had in the military with the camaraderie. And that's the reason why it's very important to have the overnight stays there, because they get to talk around the bonfire. And then you'll start to notice that they will start going and asking for that help. As a previous guest said before, it's for a veteran, sometimes it's hard to say, I need help. I need the help of somebody else. And then you just see the number that just popped up. Those are great resources. We have wonderful resources within our community. It's just really tying them all together, bringing that veteran there. We take them fishing. We bring in horses, they get to go roller skating. So if you're an organization out there and you are dealing with veterans, you could always go to deltaveteransgroup.org and register your veteran to stay the night. They can do a walk-in, they can come for services like a resource fair if they want, but if they really want to immerse themselves with that, it's really going to be registering and staying those 4 nights. And we set up big tents, and we have surplus there as well. Bands, over 9,500 meals that go out. So it's a great event.
I agree, and I think you're spot on with that camaraderie. When they get around and they're sharing food and they're sharing common experiences, that's when we see a lot of results in that too.
And I would even say, I even say we see that at at our housing communities as well. Like that is what Jamboree does, is we bring them together. It's not just about getting them housed. It's about building a community, helping them feel like they belong there. And this is their area. This is their community. And so we bring them together. We have holiday parties. We have barbecues all the time. We have a community garden at a lot of our, and community garden, you'd be surprised at how many veterans come out and grow corn and lettuce and tomatoes. And then every season we harvest all of them, and we have a little harvest party, and we eat the food that they've grown over the last few months. So it's really amazing. We also have organizations like the Elks Club. We're working with the Elks Club right now, where we have 10 veterans that are going out fishing here at the end of the month. So we try to do all of that. It really is about camaraderie and community and making it happen, not just when they're unhoused and trying to get them housed. It's also while they're housed, rebuilding that community, help them build those social connections.
Yeah, follow them through that whole journey, Richard.
Yeah.
That whole journey where they come in and they go to entry. They may be here, some may be here, some here. But really that whole wraparound services, making them feel that pride, that proud of service again. We get the opportunity to serve our communities. And so giving them the opportunity to do that, even with your garden. I love that, the gardens. That's absolutely wonderful. Talk about therapy and watching it grow and progress.
Mm-hmm.
And then even when they get those services, we still like to follow them and see exactly where they are going. We just started another program. Well, we didn't start it, but we are working with a base camp, and where we turned the Contra Costa County Fairgrounds back RV park into an encampment where we bring in trailers. And they don't have to be a veteran to be there, but we do have a section set aside for veterans. And in that, we use that to kind of teach them, when they're living on the street, we're not doing our laundry, we're not maybe taking out the trash, and there's some things that ease it into more permanent housing with the temporary housing. So I love what you guys are doing.
I'd like to, sort of echo JR and Richard to say to speak to how important the engagement is in solving homelessness. Dirty little secret, it is the solution. And we don't do enough of that, historically have not met the moment when it comes to that, because there's a lot of veterans who feel disconnected and or perhaps, I think this point was made earlier, perhaps so disconnected that they don't know where to start or, who that first outreach is to. And so, it's really important, that, to the point JR made about stand downs, that, it's very critical. And it's also, really speaks to the difference, in types of affordable housing that we're seeing in the state these days. We have a income restricted, basically a genuinely low income based housing that's on an income basis. But then we have this other type of housing called permanent supportive housing that really emphasizes that engagement as a solution to help veterans stabilize. I think this was mentioned a minute ago that getting a veteran into housing is just the start of that process, right? Perhaps some engagement beforehand, encouraging the veteran to move in and to feel like they belong and to feel like they're worthy of the housing. And you may be surprised how many veterans will say that they aren't worthy of the kind of housing that's appearing, in county by county by county, based on public support from the state, federal, local initiatives. So we like to try and encourage veterans to make sure that they are aware that they're worthy of this, and it's all about them, and it's why we're doing this. And so really to just uplift them in every which way that we can, so that they have the confidence to take the next steps. And the engagement in that permanent supportive housing environment is critical, because that's how they maintain that housing. It's how they stay housed, and when they stay housed, they look forward to the rest of their lives instead of living moment to moment. And that's really that's really where progress starts happening for these veterans a lot.
Yeah, and I would say in the permanent supportive housing realm, one of our biggest goals is collaboration and coordination, right? Like at Jamboree, we realize that we're not going to be able to solve everyone's problem, but there are enough community providers and there's enough support at the VA that if we bring all these teams together and we collaborate and we find a comprehensive solution, because it's not a one size fits all. Every vet is unique, and so we need to meet each veteran where they are at and help them individually navigate the system. And the VA system is such it's so broad. It's very overwhelming to try to navigate it. And so we have team members who are helping walk them through the process. And then there are some who there may be a stigma with the VA with some of their previous experiences. And so we help to kind of lower that stigma, to reintroduce them, to help them understand that what they may not have been eligible for before, they can receive help for it now. It really is about coordination and collaboration and helping them to maintain and retain that housing. I always say part of the easiest job sometimes is getting them the housing opportunity. The hardest job is keeping them housed. And so that's where we take a team approach to make sure that it's not just on our team, but we look at the community to really bring them in to help these veterans.
You know, I think it's interesting too to note that we're all veterans, right? So we continued our service, which has helped us in our recovery from service as well, being able to continue that. And that's what I love about what CalVet and other organizations, all the way down to the county veteran service offices. I may be a little bit biased with the Disabled American Veterans, as I'm their legislative director and a past national service officer. But working together with all of those to get them their claims, you know, it's because we talk about laws changing, and you know, in 2011, tinnitus and hearing loss became a little bit easier to get service connected, where you used to have conditions in the service. Not that they made it presumptive, but it is a little bit easier, and compensation is an easy way to get access to other veteran services. Some of the concerns that I have, and especially with the DAV, is with the PACT Act, veterans are going to be able to access different claims, but also their combined evaluations are going up. And so once they go over the 70% mark, they're eligible for long-term care. And we just do not have the beds currently or the construction to be able to handle that kind of a surge in it. And so as we have an aging population with higher compensations, that's also going to be an issue that is in the future. So
that definitely leads into, you know, a topic I wanted to bring up about the veteran population is over 55% over 55 years old, right? And that's aging. We all know that. So what is we doing? Maybe on Sean and Mary, thanks for staying with us. What are we doing to address the, you know, on a state level and a county level, even a federal level, the long-term housing for severely disabled veterans and veterans, elder veterans on a fixed income? Is that being addressed on a? We'll start with Sean, on a state level?
I'm glad you brought that point up, Josh, because it is a very important issue. You know, veterans who are experiencing homelessness, especially those veterans experiencing chronic homelessness, which means they've been homeless for more than a year. You know, they've had that experience sort of ongoing for a long time. And, you know, that experience weighs heavy on anyone, but it really especially weighs heavy on veterans who've gone through, especially veterans who have, you know, have experienced combat or other traumatic experiences during their service. They are aging at a faster clip just through that experience alone. You know, and when you pile on the experience of long-term homelessness, it really ages a veteran beyond their biological age. And so it's a real big problem. And, you know, these veterans still want to live in their community. They still want to thrive and make the best out of their community situation. And so we've been really working hard at CalVet to trying to explore solutions when it comes to that. We have a pilot called the Veteran Support to Self-Reliance pilot. And that pilot, you know, we have 6 grantees throughout the state that are testing this idea that if we add more resources to permanent supportive housing sites that are actually housing veterans over 55 with high acuity conditions, meaning they really have a lot of needs, behavioral, mental health, physical health, you know, what kind of what is the right size of extra resources and type of services that would help those veterans retain their housing and avoid the situation where they have to experience being displaced to some assisted living environment or other kind of congregate type of setting. That's essentially the only thing that they can look forward to because of the complex needs that they have. We want to try and help them with that, and so the VSSR pilot's really taken a good hard look at that. We got a couple of different models that we're looking at that we've provided funding for, and so we hope that through that we're able to affect that very situation to help veterans retain their housing despite their aging complications, despite the medical needs or other health needs that they have, and help them to stay in their community and thrive in that community.
Thank you, Sean. Mary, is there anything that you would like to add to this?
Just adding on, really, it's having the right folks at the table, being willing to advocate for those known solutions that we know will help these veterans and our aging population, those with unique barriers, disabilities, such as permanent supportive housing, such as our VASH vouchers. I'm looking at CalVet and our VIP program, where we have a Valor Village, where we were able to house from Contra Costa some of our most vulnerable veterans, where they have access to both case management and the financial support to help them stay housed, which I'm sure our friends from Shelter Inc. will share more about shortly.
And I would also share there is an opportunity. The state does have an opportunity right now. Last year, Proposition 1 was passed, and so there what was it? I think it was $1.065 billion was set aside for veteran housing to build permanent supportive housing. It's available now through the Home Key Plus NOFA that was recently adjusted in August 7th, I believe. So there are opportunities for organizations that want to build housing and to be able to specify for seniors. I know for Jamboree, we have senior-only properties where we work with seniors and we work with community providers who specialize in providing services to this demographic. And so the opportunity is also there. It's not just saying we have this need, we can foresee it. I think it's also incumbent upon us to take advantage of the opportunities that are there through current funding sources to be able to start to think outside the box and look at ways that we can use this funding to build housing that will be able to account for this increases surge that we're going to see of our older veterans.
I just wanted to follow up with Sean. You had mentioned earlier about, developing housing for homeless veterans. Is there a method of picking sites out or developing those places over another or determining a need over another?
Well, that's a great question. It's different throughout the state because, of course, those decisions are all locally defined, locally decided. Locations, sites where they want to build. And, one of the challenges we've been hearing a lot about, is kind of making those determinations, really just sort of picking sites that both meet the need and, meet the need in terms of demand, veterans experiencing homelessness that would benefit from permanent supportive housing, but also building in areas that they desire to live in, right? Because we, sometimes forget that when we have numbers of homelessness, regarding homelessness, we may have a count, I think 150, I believe is what was mentioned earlier in Contra Costa County. I mean, it's easy to assume that you have 150 veterans experiencing homelessness. So if you just build 150 units, then that solves the problem. But it doesn't, not by a long shot, because you don't necessarily automatically have that connection between the unit and the veteran. A lot of work needs to be done to find the veteran. A lot of work needs to be done to educate the veteran on the opportunities if they aren't already looking. And then really pairing up that veteran with that unit, given the community, the type of services that they're able to provide, the resources in the community, other types of services and partners in that community-based system of care. And so, it's really a challenge, especially in places that are more built up and urban, in places like, perhaps Contra Costa, but more so like Los Angeles and San Francisco, Orange County type type places because there's a significant numbers are significant if we are looking at the regular point in time count information that we receive annually. The challenge is really just locating a site that, and by the way, locating a site in local jurisdictions can be difficult because of, various forms of obstacles and pushback from the community on where to develop a site that would house any individuals experiencing homelessness, let alone veterans. And so, to get to a place where the resistance doesn't knock down a project, but also a place that is a desirable place for a veteran to call home. It is a permanent housing solution, after all. We're just constantly tinkering at that to get that right, and so that veterans like the choices that they have when they come online.
Thank you so much, Sean. I know that, the VSSR program seems amazing, and as it continues, I've heard about it a few years ago, and that's happening. I think it's going to be a great study. We got about a minute and a half left, and I really want to hear some success stories. JR, let's start with you. We'll go to Richard, but pat yourself on the back right here. Let's hear it.
One of the things that we love about the stand down in the Delta is miracles do happen. It is a sober environment, and we have AA and NA there constantly. So to see the veterans running around that may only have 3 days of sobriety, and it's their future that they're looking at, and they're ready to accept those services. But we have veterans that get there also that have suicide ideation. So it truly is a way for them to connect when they're at the brink. And we absolutely love that. And again, if you'd like to volunteer or sign up to provide services or be a veteran, you can simply go to deltaveteransgroup.org. And you'll find at the event we have CalVet there, we have the County Veteran Service Office. I'd love to do more work with Jamboree. This is one of those great opportunities that we have to come together.
Thank you, JR. Richard, we got about 30 seconds. Pat yourself on the back.
Yeah, so one of the goals of permanent housing is to have individuals graduate and move on to be able to not need it to open up a space. So we have had success with veterans coming in, kind of getting stabilized. We had one who lived with us for 9 months. He got stabilized, connected to the VA, connected to community partners, and connected to school. And so he received a technician certificate, got out, found a job. And through the job was able to move on to a regular market rate apartment, got a fiance. He's now married. They're successful. And so it just shows that permanent supportive housing does work. It is successful, and that it is a place for veterans to thrive.
Thank you, Richard. And thank you, Sean and JR, for joining us today. That was amazing. A ton of information. When we come back, we'll conclude our conversation. Stay with us.
Honestly, I'm not really sure why I'm calling. It's just...
I'm having nightmares.
My husband and I, we're just fighting a lot.
I can't get any sleep.
Things just keep getting worse, and it's starting to feel like I can't do this by myself anymore.
We could use some help figuring things out.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called. Why don't you tell me more about what's going on? There's no wrong reason to reach out for crisis support. Whatever you're going through, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help. Visit veteranscrisisline.net to learn more.
Welcome back to Veterans Voices. We are talking about housing for veterans in need. To end our conversation today, we want to highlight one innovative program that is doing a lot of things right. Capri Nesbitt and Vickie Orr of Shelter Inc. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Of course. So you guys have been on the show. You've been listening for, I think, about 45 minutes. So you're lucky. You got all the background on what everyone is doing. But we really thought it was important to get someone locally that's doing something, things amazing. Mary mentioned you. I think Rebecca mentioned you also. I think JR also did. So everyone's talking about Shelter Inc. So can you guys tell us a little bit about Shelter Inc., either one of you?
Go ahead, Capri. All right. Well, Shelter Inc. is a nonprofit organization that provides housing, supportive services, life skills, resources, and connections to not only veterans, but to individuals who are experiencing at risk of homelessness and or literal homelessness.
And I was fortunate enough to actually be sitting very close to Shelter Inc. during the surge, and I noticed a lot of veterans. We worked with a lot. What other outreach are you doing other than the surge to try and connect with veterans in the community?
Well, I'll say we have as core an outreach specialist specifically assigned to our program, which is supportive services for veterans and families. And during the outreach, the core job for the outreach is to go out and find our homeless veterans. And as indicated, it could be behind a store, under a bridge, in a car, anywhere. The goal is to meet them where they are.
So the term supportive services came up, I don't know, 50 times, but I think that's something we on the government and service providers say it without really explaining it. What exactly does supportive services mean? Vickie, explain it to a veteran. What does that mean? We're going to give you supportive services. What is that?
I'm going to connect them with anything they need, from mental health to doctor's appointments, to jobs. We look for jobs. I try to get them into, say if they have substance abuse, I try to get them into a program, whether it's an outpatient, you know. There is so much out there for these veterans that they have no idea. I'm learning just as much as they are every single day. So we keep asking the questions with these veterans. What services do you need? Some of them will tell us, some of them don't. Mm-hmm. A lot of them will tell you they don't have a substance abuse problem or any mental health. But working with them like I work with them, closely, side by side, hand holding, every one of them has some sort of mental health, PTSD, from being in the service. It breaks your heart at times, but you work with them, you get them connected with every service they need through the VA. If they're not connected with the VA, through the county, you know, you just make that phone call. With them sitting next to you, you get them connected. Once they're connected, there's a smile on their face.
So to me, it sounds very difficult to start kind of going into a community, maybe into a homeless encampment and having that conversations. I'm in an office where I'm used to veterans coming in and talking to me and asking for help. Mm-hmm. How do you start that conversation? How do you build that trust when you're going out there?
Well, our outreach person finds the veterans, and then our program specialists, they do a one-door registration, excuse me. And then they're assigned to a case manager. There are 3 case managers working with the veterans here at Shelter Inc. And we, you know, if they don't have a phone, we reach out to CORE or our outreach person with Shelter Inc. and we connect with them. Most of the time, I'm able to do like their intakes indoors. Lately, I've had to go out in the field and do them, you know, in a parking lot. And when I'm talking to the veteran, I treat them like they're me. I ask them questions. I don't know, I gain their confidence. It's hard to do. It is definitely difficult. But the more you talk with them and let them tell you their story, you gain their trust. At least I do. And I've been doing this for 3 years. And I'll tell you, I've had ups and downs with some of my veterans, but at the end of the day, when they're housed, they're happy.
And I'll just elaborate a little bit behind Vickie. When out in outreach, doing outreach, I'm not only a program manager for supportive services and veterans and families, but I will transition positions. I will transition to the outreach, to the case manager, and overseeing. But when going out there in the field, you have to, one, be able to prepare yourself. You have to mentally be aware that individuals are or have had experience. So being trauma informed, being an active listener, and really being able to listen to identify without words, because sometimes it's not expressed, you know, that an individual have been through things, and allow them to tell you, you know, what it is that they want. If they don't, you just have to play it close enough by ear to be able to walk with them in their journey.
I can't imagine how you guys are able to gain the trust of veterans when you're going out somewhere and saying, hey, follow me back to this housing place, because to a lot of people it seems like, of course they will, right? But maybe they don't want to. Maybe there's a reason why.
No.
So how do you gain that trust?
It's difficult, but you know, you ask them, do you want to live on the street? You know, or would you like to have a roof over your head and 4 walls? A lot of them say yes, they want to have a place of their own. They have a lot of barriers, and one of them is income, you know, so we really got to look at that. And it is very difficult to take a homeless person, veteran, off the street and house them. Because once you house them, it's a whole new world. And now we're going to teach them what being housed is all about. And that's where Valor Village comes in. Mary's going to smile. Valor Village was built. It's owned by Saha. We do have 15 veterans at Valor Village that we oversee. Out of the 15 veterans, every single one of them lived on the street. They were absolutely homeless. It's very difficult for them, and some of them are still struggling.
It sounds like there's a lot of remedial things that need to be worked on because you haven't done it in a while, right?
Right.
You think that's a myth about veterans that that they want to be homeless? Because it's like, why are they? Well, there's all these programs out there. Well, then why are there still so many homeless veterans?
One of the myths is definitely that they want to be homeless.
Yes.
No one wants to be in that situation. Including with that is one that all veterans know what assistance is there for them once discharged from the military. That's not accurate. It's not accurate. A lot of individuals may have slightly been informed of something, but a lot of the individuals that we come across that we help, this is like I didn't know nobody was here to help us. You know, you don't know the mindset that they were in when they were discharged, the information that was actually, that was taken in, you know, during that time. So definitely a myth that they want to be homeless.
Thank you so much. And thanks for joining us. Capri, Vickie, Sean, J.R., is everybody still there? Mary, Rebecca. That is our discussion. I want to thank all of our guests today. We have only scratched the surface of resources available for veterans. If you or a veteran you know needs shelter, reach out.
We hope you found our conversation educational. We leave you with some resources if you want to reach out. To start a search for any veterans benefits, the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers is the good place to start. Find one near you at nacvso.org. The National Call Center for Homeless Veterans is another good first step. Reach out at 877-424-3838. For California residents, CalVet has resources that can help. Go to calvet.ca.gov and click on Housing. Shelter Inc. helps veterans find housing. Find them at shelterinc.org or call 925-335-0698. Insight Housing is another resource for veterans seeking shelter. Find them at insighthousing.org or call 510-649-4965. To rewatch tonight's episode, check back on our homepage later this week or check your cable provider's schedule for rebroadcast times. You can also rewatch this episode and many others on our YouTube channel, Veterans Voices of Contra Costa, so be sure to subscribe. Follow the link or scan the QR code to find us on all our social media channels. Our next show will air on Wednesday, September 10th at noon. We'll be discussing another subject important to our veterans community. You won't want to miss it. To all our veterans and their families, thank you for serving. To all of you who tuned in tonight, thanks for watching and have a great evening.